We're here today to finish off our positional rankings, and today we have a very fun position as the safety class in this year's draft is loaded at the top of it. After that, you're taking some long shots. But ultimately, today we're going to give you our list of our top safeties as well as some honorable mentions. As always, get in the comment section below and let us know your favorite safety in this year's class. Shorter list today. We only have about 10 to 15 safeties that we both evaluated to this point. And for myself, some of the top honorable mentions are Emanuel McNeel-Warren, there for the Toledo Rockets, Genesis Smith, which Amir, you gave me that tape. I had to go watch it. And then Michael Taft of the Texas Longhorns. Super smart guy, and he's very solid all around. But that is my general top names that didn't make the top 8. Amir, run us through 9, 10, and 11, the short list of your honorable mentions.
So I got Michael Taffy, Jacoby Thomas, and Bud Clark. I was high on Bud Clark. He just has a bit more questions. And given that he's like a super senior, that does bring a lot of experience, but that kind of just makes me question a few things. But those are my honorable mentions right now.
Yeah, Bud Clark, we're going to talk about later on in today's video. Let's just say we're on two different ends of the coin, though we believe the same things about him. Genesis Smith, Amir, I want you to run me through this one at 6'2", 200. Brings great size for the safety position. I think he has longer arms, might have the longest in the class. He is very athletic, and I think he's good to great in coverage, but he's very hesitant as far as instinctually, reading the plays, trusting his mind, jumping routes, right? And or he's an inconsistent tackler, so he's hesitant in that regard as well. Run us through Genesis Smith. What do you like about him, and why is he seventh on your safety big board?
So I think he has a high ceiling as a safety. He's a safety, but he covers like he's a corner and a slot. And he also covers a lot of ground in space, in his deep zones. He could be higher, but the biggest issue that I can't get over and it drives me nuts is his tackling. His tackling is so bad. I think out of all the guys on this list, he's by far the worst tackler, but he arguably is the best just man-to-man glue guy. He is a great glue guy. He can cover in space. He can just lock on and just guard slots. He can guard just like tight ends. He has long arms, like you just mentioned. And I have him at 7. I just think he has a higher ceiling than some of these guys. Just the tackling, man, like that. The tackling irks me a lot. And he's honestly aggressive. Like you can kind of see his effort, but his instincts are kind of slow when fitting in the run. He's kind of hesitant sometimes, and it's just very glaring.
Yeah, Genesis Smith, again, the floor is very low, but again, like you mentioned, the ceiling is fairly high, and that could be why he's an intriguing middle round pick for one of these NFL teams who can develop him fairly quickly. For me, I have Jalen Kilgore on my list. Amir, I believe you don't have him, at least not yet. But at 6'1", 210, he brings good size for the safety position. And honestly, I think he's just good to great across the board as far as instinctually recognizing plays and concepts, as far as getting in the run game and kind of recognizing where that run is designed to go. And he's a good to great athlete as well. In typical South Carolina safety fashion, he is of the mold of a Nick Emanuel-Warren, but at a far lesser degree. He doesn't have the elite traits of a Nick Emanuel-Warren. But Jalen Kilgore, when you talk about potential, when you talk about just looking at him as a prospect with his build, I think a lot of teams are going to love him, especially after he tests pretty well there at the combine and or his pro day. Amir, do you have any thoughts about Jalen Kilgore before we move on?
Yes, I watched this tape, and I think this is also one of those safer picks. Like if he's available in later rounds and you're in desperate need of like DB depth, I think he's a really good area to go because, like you mentioned, he's 6'1", around like 210. He can move. He should run around like the 4.4 range. He has good instincts as well, and he's honestly like an enforcer. Like he's a really good tone
Yes.
setter for a
That's
defense. And when you watch his tape, when you watch his highlights, you can just see his leadership qualities on the field. And I think he's a person that you will want on the defense.
Yeah, a high energy guy for sure, and he can make a lot of impact plays. AJ Haulcy is up next, and at 6'2", 220, I think is the guy that brings a huge frame for the safety position. He's great in coverage. I think he has the versatility to slide down and maybe play in the slot or maybe a sub linebacker package. But I think he's just very solid all around. He has a physical edge to him at times, though that is not always consistent. He's just a very solid safety. No elite traits, but also no super glaring weaknesses that would turn any team off from drafting him. Amir, your thoughts on the LSU Tiger as you have him at number 8?
This is like a better. This is like a more athletic Jamal Adams, and it might sound crazy, but I think he's the hardest hitting DB in this class. This man is a missile. He blows tight ends up, running backs up, receivers up. It does not matter. He's an absolute dog. He has great skills and coverage, and he's a missile. Like he flies around. Um, I had him a bit lower because you can kind of see at times where on his tape and in games, I think his man-to-man coverage, it could be a weakness in the league. Like
That's a
his
fair
frame is
point.
too long. He's a bit shorter, and he doesn't have like great top end speed to really run with like those faster slots, and they kind of give him trouble at times. But you want a guy that's going to be a tone setter. I think outside of Caleb Downs, he's probably the best tone setter I have on this list.
Yeah, it's hard to argue that the potential is there with an AJ Haulcy, but when you talk about potential, Bishop Fitzgerald, Amir, you are fairly high on him at 6 foot 205. I think he's very athletic, and I think that's the thing that I first caught my eye. I think that pops off his tape as far as how smooth he is as a mover, how well he can move his hips and cover a lot of ground very quickly. Outside of being athletic, he's solid in coverage, solid instinctually, solid tackler, but nothing outside of his athleticism popped off the tape for me. Amir, what are your thoughts on a Bishop Fitzgerald and why you have him in your top 5?
So for me, the thing that he does that you can't really teach, he finds the ball. He creates turnovers. I mean, last year he had 5 picks in 10 games, and people thought that was a fluke, but they forget at NC State, he had 5 picks through 2 seasons. So he had 10 interceptions throughout his college career. And what's impressive about me, like I just mentioned, he has no major weaknesses in his game aside from him being a bit shorter. He's fast. His coverage is amazing. Ball skills are amazing. I mean, he has elite level ball skills, and he
Okay.
plays with a motor that I think is flat out amazing. He's an amazing tackler too. He isn't just a run stuffer. I think Kamari Ramsey, who's a spot higher than him, in my opinion. He isn't as good of a run stuffer in that aspect, but he covers a lot of ground. He covers a lot of ground as a safety that's only 5'11", and I love him.
Yeah, I think as far as a prospect to prospect comparison, I think Bishop Fitzgerald has more potential than his teammate Kamari Ramsey. But for myself, like you, I have Kamari Ramsey a spot higher. But halfway through the top 4, or top 8 rather, Bishop Fitzgerald at number 6 for myself. AJ Haulcy follows, as well as Jalen Kilgore. Amir has AJ Haulcy, Genesis Smith, and Emanuel McNeel-Warren. Amir, do you have any thoughts on Mr. Warren there as he represents the Toledo Rockets?
So Emmanuel McNeil-Warren, I think he's just under 6'3". This is another guy where he forces a bunch of turnovers. I mean, he is a ball hawk. The thing about him is the reason why he's at the bottom for me. I think he's more of like a fun person that you develop. Like if you want to take a risk on a guy, you want to develop him. This is him right here. He's a crazy athlete. He covers a bunch of ground, like I mentioned, just under 6'3" or whatever. His tackling form is a bit iffy, even though he's physical. But this dude is a ball hawk. I think the biggest concern for me, outside of him being a guy that you develop, he does get a bit sloppy in his technique when he's playing those deep zones. He gets a bit hoppy. His eyes can be a bit late, but he is a guy that's an absolute playmaker. So I love him.
Yeah, hard to argue with the prospect of an Emmanuel McNeil-Warren, and hopefully he tests fairly well because I always like to see the Toledo Rockets get their, I guess, shining in the light. Last Toledo Rocket that declared for the draft and had a fairly high anticipation was Quinion Mitchell. That and also that defensive tackle last year. I forgot his name as of right now, but Kamari Ramsey, it comes in at the next spot, similar size at 6 foot 205. He is very athletic. I think he is great in coverage, one of the better zone defenders in this current upcoming safety class. I just think as far as his versatility, his ability to be very athletic, he has a perfect skill set for the modern NFL defenses where there's a lot of moving parts, and Kamari Ramsey can fit the bill in a lot of ways, especially in zone coverage. I do worry about his tackling ability because he's very hesitant in that regard. But Amir, your thoughts on Mr. Ramsey?
I mean, this is Cam Kitchens. Like when I watch him, I
Really?
like
I see
when I
Cam
watch him.
Kinchins for another safety.
Like when I watch him, I think the floor that you're going to get for him is to be a consistent starter. And you brought up a great point. He has the perfect skill set for a modern NFL. He can cover in the slot. He's physical. He can hit. His tackling technique does get a bit iffy, but there's nothing that's like any like major glaring weaknesses in my opinion. He has the
Agree.
frame and the size. I think some people still have him listed at like 5'11", but like as far as like muscle mass, I mean the muscle mass is there and his strength is there, and I think he's going to test really well as well. And so I think he's a bit of a safer pick than every guy I have underneath him.
Yeah, again, the potential, but also the zone coverage ability will definitely intrigue a lot of GMs to draft him maybe higher than we're expecting at this point in time. Now, Zakee Wheatley, hopefully I said that right. He comes in at 6'2", 200 of the Nittany Lions. And this is a guy that is a physical freak. He has great instincts. I think he's a great athlete, and he has great range to him. He can really cover a lot of space in a short amount of time. But if he needs to get down and dirty, he can do that. He's a very physical tackler. He's not scared to be in the box. However, he does have some inconsistencies with his tackle where he doesn't wrap up all the time, and some people can bounce off of him in certain instances. But Amir, your thoughts on Zakee Wheatley, his potential, and why you have him as your second highest safety?
I mean, this is another guy with the highest ceiling. I mean, he's so versatile. He checks all the boxes. I mean, you can put this dude at corner, free safety, strong safety. You can blitz him. He can tackle in open space. He does have to wrap up a bit more. And I think when he's playing press man, he does have to do a better job of being physical at the line. But he's going to run a true 4-4, potentially even 4-3 at the combine. He's going to test well. This is just a dude that when I watched him on tape, he popped out to me personally a lot more than a guy that I have right underneath him. And I'm not going to spoil it just yet, but I love this guy. I'm going to be watching him all season long.
Yeah, Zakee Wheatley, definitely a fun pick, and I'll say that. But he just didn't crack my top three because number three belongs to Dillon Thieneman at 6'2", 205. That seems to be a common build here amongst all these safeties. But for Thieneman, I think he has great instincts. A guy that is good to great in coverage, has tons of big game experience on a team that has competed at a high level there in college football for many years. And he also brings some versatility. Now, he's not the greatest athlete in the world compared to some guys below him, but I think he's a very safe pick at the position, very smart, knows where to be and how to get there with IQ rather than pure athleticism. He could be a little bit more patient. Sometimes he bites the gun a little bit and gets beat on double moves and things of that nature. He is also an inconsistent tackler, but that also can come with just filling out his frame a bit more and just being more confident in his decision making because, again, he is fairly hesitant with some of the things he does. Amir, your thoughts on Thieneman as I have him and you have him at number three?
This is Madden franchise legend Troy Apke. You know, like I think he's gonna run a 4-3 in the combine. I think this off speed and instincts and his trigger, he's extremely twitchy. He's he's extremely aggressive and physical. His tackling technique does get a bit sloppy, but he's a missile. I mean, he's a dude where it's like even if he meets you at the line of scrimmage, his instincts are so good to where it's like he's going to meet you at the line of scrimmage to where it's not even going to be that many one-on-one tackling opportunities. I mean, he's going to meet you while the play is still congested, and his ball skills are great. He covers a lot of ground. I mean, look, when you get the chance, look up his highlights against Fresno State. It was his first ever game starting in college. This guy was in the high spot, and he literally flipped his hips to the opposite hash, covered from the opposite hash to the opposite sideline, and picked a go ball off. It was nuts. This dude is great. He was my number two at first, but I'm moving on to number three. That's because I just think his man-to-man coverage is going to be a bit of a bigger issue, and he also could be a bit more patient. I think he's a lot more of a gambler, and I think his ceiling isn't as high as Zakee Wheatley and obviously our number one, but I'm going to be watching him. This is my favorite player in the draft this year.
Is that a my guy?
My guy.
Dillon Thieneman is definitely a fun watch, but I don't have him at number two, and we couldn't be farther apart as far as our rankings on this player. And maybe it's because I had a TCU franchise on College Football 26 early in the season, and he was one of the best players. And honestly, that's kind of where I fell in love with him. But at 6'2", 190, Bud Clark is very experienced, and that comes with a great deal of IQ. He's seen plenty of offenses, plenty of concepts, and that has paid off because he is a ball magnet. And to me, I loved Cameron Kinchens. He was my second favorite player 2 draft classes ago. They're next to Layout Latu. But the reason why I loved Cam Kinchens is because he was very instinctual. You could tell he was very smart, and he was a ball hawk because he knew where to be, when to be, and how to play mind tricks on the quarterback. I just think Bud Clark can do all of those things. Now, he's not a great athlete. He's not even the athlete like Cameron Kinchens was. But I do think with his instincts, he causes a lot of turnovers. And again, he comes with a lot of experience, something that NFL teams will clamor for because he can immediately, from day one, be a leader on that back end for any defense that he goes to. Again, not the greatest athlete, and that will limit him at the next level. He definitely is going to have to be he's going to have to play off more, be smarter than ever with his movement because he's just not going to be able to stay foot for foot speed with a lot of these NFL wide receivers and tight ends even. Amir, you have him at number 11. I have him at number 2. Why do you have him so much further down? And I guess that's not really fair to say because I think I'm higher on him than most people.
So I think Bud Clark is good. What kind of concerns me, like you brought up, he's not the best athlete. I think it's just enough for him to be able to be sticky in coverage. Also, like his size and his bulk, he's 185. Maybe he'll weigh more at the combine. That's also concerning. And earlier in his career, he did deal with some injury issues. For me, I just think the other guys, they kind of just provide more value and just like they pop off on tape more outside of this man-to-man coverage. What sticks out to me the most with this guy is I think he's great in the slot and man-to-man coverage. I think he can play the ball in the air, has amazing ball skills, and I keep on bringing up the Senior Bowl, right? When I watched the Senior Bowl, he popped out to me. I mean, he can cover, he's physical, he's aggressive, he has that mindset, and he has like the leadership qualities you would want as a safety. I just kind of like the guys over him a bit more. And I actually had him higher, and I brought it before the show. I had him higher.
Yeah.
I had him close to my top 5. I just kind of just like had a different philosophy when I re-looked at all my safeties.
Yeah, this guy for me is like Chase Roberts, who I have very high at the receiver position. It's kind of just taking a bit of a flyer, a guy that has a lot of experience. He's a bit more of a veteran at the collegiate level, and I'm just trusting for that veteranship to translate from day number 1 in the NFL. So that's why Bud Clark is very high, more so than consensus. At number 1, as if there were any questions, we have Caleb Downs, if you've ever heard of him. At 6'2", 205, he is the number 1 player on my big board, number 1 player in this class. And I just think he's elite at everything. Let's not beat around the bush, and I don't think this guy needs a deep draft analysis. He's elite at everything. He's the best safety I've ever scouted. He has been a quality starter and role player for 3 years there at Ohio State, playing one of the harder schedules. And he's been dominating, right? It's not just 3 years of experience, it's 3 years of elite production. The only thing that I would worry about here is the fact that safety is a replaceable position. It is not a position that you like to draft in the early parts of the first round because if you miss or if this guy goes down with injury, you just wasted a top pick on a guy that is at a position that is not the most important in the NFL. For Caleb Downs, there's not a lot of injury history there. Let me just clarify with that, but he's a game changer. Unfortunately, we thought Jamal Adams was a game changer, and he never really changed the trajectory of the Jets for all the years that he was there early in his career. I can see that happening with a Caleb Downs if he goes to a Jets or a team like that in the top 5 who love the player, love the prospect of him, but I just don't know at the safety position if they can truly elevate and completely change a defense. He's going to be great, but how great can he be? I just don't know if that's going to be worth a top 5 pick. With that being said, he's the number 1 player on my draft board entirely. Amir, I love the prospect. Your thoughts on Caleb Downs?
And I don't want to glaze, but I don't think he has any flaws really. And it's rare you watch a guy and you can just normally you can pick out at least one thing that's a glaring issue or one thing that might bring concerns. The only thing I guess for Caleb Downs is that his frame is a bit more compact. Like he doesn't have any he doesn't have much length at all. But it's like other than that, I mean, he still is elite when it comes to finishing through the football in the air. All in 50-50 balls, in contested catch situations, and it's like I kind of agree with you from the aspect of it's really hard to really draft a defensive guy, and he completely just like changes the dynamic of a franchise. It's always risky drafting anybody that high outside of a quarterback or like a tackle, or maybe even like an edge rusher, because you can see how those people can completely just change in its impact on one side of the football.
Yes. Yeah.
But I think for Caleb Downs, I mean, I'm starting to think, when was the last safety we've seen that was actually great at everything, and that was as good of a prospect as him?
Never. I don't think I've ever seen
I
a
mean,
safety
seriously.
better, at least in the last half decade.
I mean, seriously, and it's like, I mean, people kind of concerned. I mean, he takes a lot of gambles when he's flying downhill, but it's like, I mean, he's an elite tackler. He can cover man and man. He gave up 0 touchdowns in his career at OSU and Bama. If you want to put him at returner, he can do that. He can do everything.
Yeah, this is one of those guys that if you're in love with the prospect, you're going to take a chance, even though it is at the safety position. But I do also want to say, don't be shocked if he falls out of the top 10, despite being, to most people, one of the best players in the class. It's simply positional value, which might be the only downfall of where Caleb Downs is drafted in a couple months. But here is my top five. Of course, my number one player in the class is a safety in Caleb Downs. Number two is Bud Clark. Three is Thieneman. Four is Zakee Wheatley and Kamari Ramsey at number five. Six to eight, we already talked about these guys. It's on your screen now if you missed it the first time. Amir, run us through your top five. You have a lot of Trojans on the screen right now.
So I got Caleb Downs at one, Zakee Wheatley at number two, Troy Apke at three, Kamari Ramsey at four, and I got Ed Reed at five.
Ed Reed, that don't put the pressure on that dude.
I got AJ Haulcy at six, Genesis Smith at seven, and I got Emanuel McNeel-Warren at eight.
I do want to take this time to remind you guys this is a fairly new channel, so if you're watching it and you made it to this point, drop a like, subscribe, and share the channel as it's fairly new. Again, we do strictly draft coverage on this channel, and there's going to be plenty of it here for the entire off season. But Amir, safeties are done. We're now through all of the positional rankings. Any last thoughts?
No last thoughts. Like I said, Dillon Thieneman is a my guy. Ted Hurst is also a my guy.